Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated. To the shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated, our gain in net returns in 2009 was $21.8 billion, which increased the per share book value of both our Class A and Class B stock by 19.8% over the last 45 years that has since present management took over. Book value has grown from $19 to $84,487, a rate of 20.3% compounded annually. All per share figures used in this report apply to Berkshire A shares. Figure for the B shares are 1 to 100,050th of those shown for A. Berkshire recent acquisition of Burlington Northern Santa Fe BNSF has added at least 65,000 shareholders to the 500,000 or so already in our books. It's important Charlie Munger, my longtime partner, and me, all that owners understand Berkshire's operations, goals, limitations, culture, and each annual report consequently restate the economic principle that guide us. This year, these principles appear on pages 89 to 94, and I urge all of you, but particularly our new shareholders, to read them. Berkshire has adhered to these principles for decades. We'll continue to do so after long I'm gone. In this letter, we will also review some of the basics of our business, hoping to provide both freshman orientation sessions for BNSF newcomers and refresher course for Berkshire veterans. How we measure ourselves. Our metrics for evaluating our managerial performance are displayed on the facing page. From the start, Charlie and I have believed in having a rational and bending standard for measuring that we have or have not accomplished. That keeps us from temptation of seeing where the error of performance lies and then painting the bullseye around it. Selecting the S&P 500 as our bogey was an easy choice because our shareholders had virtually no cost can match its performance by holding an index fund. Why should they pay us for merely duplicating the result? A more difficult decision for us how to measure the progress of Berkshire versus the S&P. There are good arguments for simply using the change in our stock price over an extended period of time. In fact, that is the best test. But year-to-year market prices can be extraordinarily erratic. Even if valuations covering as long as a decade can be greatly distorted by foolishly high or low prices at the beginning or end of the measurement period. Steve Ballmer of Microsoft and Jet Immelt of GE can tell you about that problem, suffering as they do from the nosebleed prices at which their stock traded when they were handed the managerial baton. The ideal day standard for measuring our yearly progress would be the change in Berkshire's per share intrinsic value. Alas, that value cannot be calculated with anything close to precision, so we instead use a crude proxy for it. Per share book value, relying on this yardstick, has its shortcomings, which we discuss on pages 92 and 93. Additionally, book value at most companies understates intrinsic value, and that's certainly the case at Berkshire. In aggregate, our business are worth considerably more than the values at which they are created on our books. In our all-important insurance business, moreover, the difference is huge. Even so, Charlie and I believe that our book value understated, though it is supplies the most useful tracking device for changes in intrinsic value. By this measurement, as the opening paragraph of this letter states, our book value since the start of fiscal 1965 has grown at a rate of 20.3% of compounded annually. We should note that had we instead chosen market prices as our yardstick, Berkshire's results would look better, showing a gain since the start of fiscal 1965 22% compounded annually. Surprisingly, this modest difference in annual compounding rate leads to an 801,516% market value gain for an entire 45-year period compared to the book value gain of 434,057% shown on page 2. Our market gain is better because in 1965, Berkshire shares sold an appropriate discount to the book value of its under-earning textile assets, whereas today, Berkshire shares regularly sell at a premium to the accounting values of its first-class businesses. Sum of the table on page 2 conveys three messages, two positive and one hugely negative. First, we have never had any 5-year period beginning with 1965 to 69 and ending with 2005 to 09, and there have been 41 of these during which our gain in book value did not exceed the S&P's gain. Second, though we have lagged the S&P in some years that we were positive for the market, we have consistently done better than the S&P in the 11 years during which it's delivered negative results. In other words, our defense has been better than our offense and thus likely to continue. The big minus is that our performance advantage has shrunk dramatically as our size has grown in a pleasant trend that is certain to continue. To be sure, Berkshire has many outstanding businesses and a cadre of truly great managers operating with an unusual corporate culture that lets them maximize their talents. Charlie and I believe these factors will continually produce better than average results over time, but huge sums forge your own anchor, and our future advantage, if any, will be a small fraction of historical edge. What do we don't do? Long ago, Charlie laid out his strongest ambition. All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. That bit of wisdom was inspired by Jacobi, the great Prussian mathematician who counseled invert, always invert, as an aid to solving difficult problems. I can report as well as his introversion approach works on a less lofty level. Sing a country song in reverse and you will quickly recover your car, house, and wife. Here are a few examples of how we apply Charlie's thinking at Berkshire. Charlie and I have businesses whose features we can evaluate no matter how exciting their products may be. In the past, it required no balance for people to foresee the fabulous growth and await in such industries as autos in 1910, aircraft in 1930, and television and tennis in 1950. But the future then also included competitive dynamics that would decimate almost of the companies entering those industries. Even survivors tended to come away bleeding. Just because Charlie and I can clearly see dramatic growth ahead for an industry does not mean we can judge what its profit margins, return on capital will be as a host of competitors battle for supremacy. At Berkshire, we will stick with business whose profit picture for decades to come seems reasonably predictable. Even then, we will make plenty of mistakes. We'll never become dependent on the kindness of strangers. Too big to fail is not a fallback position at Berkshire. Instead, we will always arrange our affairs so that any requirements for cash we may conceivably have will be dwarfed for our own liquidity. Moreover, that will be constantly refreshed by the gush of earnings from our many and diverse business. When the financial system went into cardiac arrest in September 2008, Berkshire was a supplier of liquidity and capital to the system, not a supplicant. At the very peak of the crisis, we poured $15.5 billion into a business world that could otherwise look only to the federal government for help. Of that, $9 billion went to bolster capital at three highly regarded and previously secure American businesses that needed without delay. Our tangible vote of confidence, the remaining $6.5 billion, satisfied our commitment to help fund the purchase of Wrigley, a deal that was completed without pause while elsewhere panic reigned. We pay a steep price to maintain our premier financial strength, the $20 billion plus of cash equivalent assets that we customarily hold as earning at a pittance at present, but we sleep well. We tend let our many subsidiaries operate on their own without our supervising and monitoring them to any degree. That means we are sometimes late in spotting management problems that both operating capital decisions are occasionally made with which Charlie and I would have disagreed had we been consulted. Most of our managers, however, are used to independence. We grant them magnificently reward and confidence by maintaining an owner-oriented attitude that is invaluable and too seldom found in usual organizations. We would rather suffer the visible cost of few bad decisions than incur the many invisible costs that come from decisions made too slowly or not at all because of its stifling bureaucracy. With our acquisition of BNSF, we now have about 257,000 employees in literally hundreds of different operating units. We hope to have many more of each, but we will never allow Berkshire to become some monolith that is overrun with committees, budget presentations, and multiple layers of management. Instead, we plan to operate as a collection of separately managed medium-sized and large business, most of whose decision-making occurs at the operating level. Charlie and I will limit ourselves to allocating capital, controlling enterprise risk, choosing managers, and setting their compensation. We make no attempt to woo Wall Street investors who buy and sell based upon media or analyst commentary, not for us. Instead, we want partners who join us at Berkshire because they wish to make a long-term investment in business they themselves understand and because it's one of the follow policies with which they concur. If Charlie and I were to go into small venture with fewer partners, we would seek individuals in sync with us, knowing that common goals and shared destiny make for a happy business marriage between owners. A manager scaling up to giant size doesn't change the truth. To build a compatible shareholder population, we try to communicate with our owners directly and informatively. Our goal is to tell you that we would like to know if our positions were reversed. Additionally, we try to post our quarterly and annual financial information on the internet early on weekends, thereby giving you and other investors plenty of time during a non-trading period to digest just what has happened at our multifaceted enterprise. Occasionally, SEC deadlines force a non-Friday disclosure. These matters simply can't be adequately summarized in a few paragraphs, nor do they lend themselves to kind of catchy headlines that journalists sometimes seek. Last year, we saw in one instance how soundbite reporting can go wrong. Among the 12,830 words in the annual letter was this sentence: "We're certain, for example, that the economy will be in shambles throughout 2009 and probably well beyond, but that conclusion does not tell us whether the market will rise or fall." Many news organizations reported indeed blared in the first part of the sentence while making no mention whatsoever of its ending. I regard this as terrible journalism. Misinformed readers or viewers may well have the thought that Charlie and I were forecasting bad things for the stock market, though we had not only in the sentence but also elsewhere made it clear we weren't predicting the market at all. Any investors who were misled by the sensationalists had paid a big price. The Dow closed the day later 7,063 and finished the year at 10,428. Given the few experiences we've had like that, you can understand why I prefer that our communications with you remain as direct and unabridged as possible. Let's move to specifics of Berkshire operations. We have four more major operating sectors, each differing from others in balance sheet and income account characteristics, therefore lumping them together as in standard financial statements. It beats analysis. So I'll present them as four separate businesses, which is how Charlie and I view them. Insurance. Our property casual PC insurance business has been an engine behind Berkshire's growth and will continue to be. It has worked wonders for us. We carry our PC companies on our books at $15.5 billion, more than their net tangible assets and amount large in our goodwill account. These companies, however, are worth far more than their carrying value, and the following look at the economic model of the PC industry will tell you why. Insurers receive premiums up front and pay claims later. In extreme cases such as those arising from certain workers' compensation accidents, payments can stretch over decades. This collect now pay later model leaves us holding large sums of money we call float, and that will eventually go to others. Meanwhile, we get to invest this float for Berkshire's benefit. Though the individual policy and claim come and go, the amount of float we hold remains remarkably stable in relation to premium volume. Consequently, as our business grows, so does our float. If premiums exceed the total of expense and eventual losses, we just earn underwriting profit that adds to the investment income produced from the float. This combination allows us to enjoy the use of free money and better yet get paid for holding it. Alas, the hope of this happy result attracts intense competition so vigorous in most years as to cost the PC industry as a whole to operate in significant underwriting loss. This loss in effect is what the industry pays to hold its float. Usually this cost is fairly low, but in some catastrophe-ridden years, the cost from underwriting losses more than eats up the income derived from use of float. In my perhaps biased view, Berkshire has the best large insurance operation in the world, and I will absolutely state that we have the best manager. Our float has grown from $16 million in 1967 when we entered the business to $62 billion at the end of 2009. Moreover, we have now operated an underwriting profit for 7 consecutive years. I've lived like that we will continue to underwrite profitably in most, so certainly not all future years. If we do so, our float will be cost-free, much as if someone deposited $62 billion with us that we could invest for our own benefit without the payment of interest. Let me emphasize again that cost-free float is not a result not to be expected for the PC industry as a whole. In most years, premiums have been inadequate to cover claims plus expenses. Consequently, the industry's overall return on tangible equity has for many decades fallen far short of that achieved by the S&P 500. Outstanding economic exists at Berkshire only because we have some outstanding managers running some unusual businesses. Our insurance CEO deserves your thanks, having added many billions of dollars to Berkshire's value. It's a pleasure for me to tell you about these all-stars. Let's start Geico, which is known to all of you because of its $800 million annual advertising budget, close to twice that of the runner-up advertising in the auto insurance field. Geico is managed by Tony Nicely, who joined this company at 18. Now 66, Tony still tap dances to the office every day, just as I do at 79. We both feel lucky to work at a business we love. Geico's customers have warm feelings towards the company as well. Here's proof. Since Berkshire acquired control of Geico in 1996, its market shares increased from 2.5% to 8.1%, again reflecting the net addition of 7 million policyholders. Perhaps they contacted us because they thought our gecko was cute, but they'd bought it from us to save important money. Maybe you can as well. Call 1-800-847-7536 or go to www.geico.com. And they've stayed with us because they like our service as well as our price. Berkshire acquired Geico in 2 stages in 1976 to 80. We bought about 1/3 of the company's stock for $47 million over the years. Largely purchased by the company of its own shares caused our position to grow to about 50% without our having bought any more shares. Then on January 2, 1996, we acquired the remaining 50% of the Geico for $2.3 billion in cash, about 50 times the cost of our original purchase. An old Wall Street joke gets close to our experience. Customer, thanks for putting me in XYZ stock at 5.1 here. It's up to 18. Broker, yes, and that's just the beginning. In fact, the company's doing so well now that it's an even better buy at 18 than it was when you made your purchase. Customer, damn, I knew I should have waited. Geico's growth may slow in 2010. Used vehicle registration actually down because of slumping auto sales. Moreover, high unemployment is causing a growing number of drivers to go uninsured. That's illegal almost everywhere if you've lost your job and still want to drive. Our low-cost producer status, however, is sure to give us significant gains in the future. In 1995, Geico was the country's 6th largest auto insurance. Now, we are number 3. The company's float has grown from $2.7 billion to $9.6 billion. Equally important, Geico has operated an underwriting profit in 13 or 14 years. Berkshire has owned it. I became excited about Geico in January 1951 when I first visited the company as a 20-year-old student. Thanks to Tony, I'm even more excited today. A hugely important event in Berkshire's history occurred on Saturday in 1985. Ajit Jain came into our office in Omaha and immediately knew we had found a superstar. He had been discovered by Mel Golder, now elevated to St. Mike. We immediately put Ajit in charge of National Indemnity's small and struggling reinsurance operation. Over the years, he has built his business into a one-of-a-kind giant in the insurance world. Staffed today by only 30 people, Ajit's operation has set records for transaction size in several areas of insurance. Ajit writes billion-dollar limits and keeps every dime of the risk instead of laying it off with other insurers. 2 years ago, he took over each liability from Lloyd's, allowing it to clean up its relationship with 27,972 participants. Names who had written policies that at one point threatened the survival of this 322-year-old institution. The premium for the single contracted was $7.1 billion during 2009. He negotiated a life insurance reinsurance contract that could produce $50 billion of premium for us over the next 50 or so years. Ajit's business is just the opposite of Geico's. At that company, we have millions of small policies that largely renew year after year. Ajit writes relatively few policies, and the mix changes significantly from year to year. Throughout the world, he is known as the man to call when something both very large and unusual needs to be insured. If Charlie and Ajit are even sinking boat, and you can only save one of us, swim to Ajit. Our third insurance powerhouse, General Ray, some years back in this operation was troubled. Now it is a gleaming jewel in our reinsurance crown. Under the leadership of Tad Montross, General Ray had outstanding underwriting year in 2009, while also delivering unusually large amounts of float per dollar of premium volume. Alongside General Ray's PC business, Tad and his associates have developed a major life insurance operation that has grown increasingly valuable. Last year, General Ray finally attained 100% ownership of Cologne Ray, which since 1995 has been a key, though only partially owned, part of our presence around the world. Tad and I will be visiting Cologne in September to thank its managers for their important contribution to Berkshire. Finally, we own a group of smaller companies, most of them specializing in odd corners of the insurance world. In aggregate, the results have consistently been profitable, and as the table below shows, the float they provide is substantial. Charlie and I treasure these companies and their managers. Here's a record of all 4 segments of our property, casualty, and life insurance business. Insurance operations, General Ray, BH Insurance, Geico, other primary, underwriting profit in millions, year-end float, 2009, $477, 349, 649, 84, 1,559, 2008, $340, 1,324, 916, 2010, 2,792, 2009, 21,014, 26,223, 9,613, 5,061, 61,911. 2008, 21,074, 24,221, 8,454, 4,739, 58,488. And now a painful confession: last year's chairman closed the book on very expensive business fiasco internally out of his own making. For many years, I had struggled to think of the side products that we could offer millions of loyal Geico customers. Unfortunately, I finally succeeded coming up with a brilliant insight that we should market our own credit card. I reasoned that Geico policyholders were likely to be good credit risk, and assuming we offered an attractive card will likely favor us with their business. We got business all right, but over the wrong type. Our pre-tax losses from credit card operations came to about $6.3 million before I finally woke up. We then sold our $98 million portfolio of troubled receivables for 55 cents on the dollar, losing an additional $44 million. Geico's managers should be emphasized were never enthusiastic about my idea. They warned me that instead of getting the cream of Geico's customer, we would get the, well, let's call it the non-cream. I subtly indicated that I was older and wiser. I was just older. Regulated utility business. Berkshire has an 89.5% interest in Mid-American Energy Holdings, which owns a wide variety of utility operations. The largest of these are 1. Yorkshire Electricity Northern Electric, whose $3.8 million in users make it the UK's third largest distributor of electricity. 2. Mid-American Energy, which serves 225,000 electric customers, primarily in Iowa. 3. Pacific Power and Rocky Mountain Power, serving about $1.7 million electric customers in 6 western states. And 4. Kern River and Northern Natural Pipelines, which carry about 8% of the natural gas consumed in the U.S. Mid-American has 2 terrific managers, Dave Sokol and Greg Abel. In addition, my longtime friend Walter Scott, along with his family, has a major ownership position in the company. Walter brings extraordinary business savvy to any operation. 10 years of working with Dave, Greg, and Walter have reinforced my original belief Berkshire couldn't have better partners. They're also truly a dream team. Somewhat incongruously, Mid-American also owns the second largest real estate brokerage firm in the U.S., Home Service of America. This company operates through 21 locally branded firms that have 16,000 agents. Though last year was again a terrible year for the home sales, Home Service earned a modest sum. It also required a firm in Chicago and will add other quality brokerage operations when they are available at sensible prices. At a decade from now, Home Service is likely to be much larger. Here are some key figures on Mid-American's operations. UK Utilities, earnings in millions. Iowa Utility, Western Utilities, Pipelines, Home Services, Other, Net, Operating Earnings Before Corporate Interest and Taxes, Constellation Energy, Interest Other to Berkshire, Interest on Berkshire Junior Debt, Income Tax, Net Earnings, Earnings applicable to Berkshire, Debt owned to others, Debt owed to Berkshire. Consists of breakup fee of $175 million in profit or investment, $917 million, includes interest earned by Berkshire, net related income tax of $38 in 2009, $72 in 2008. 2009, $248, $285, $788, $457, $43, $25, $1,846, blank, $318, $58, $313, $1,157, $1,071, $19,579, $353, 2008, $339, $425, $703, $595, $45, $186, 2203, $1,092, $332, $111, $1,002, $18,050, $1,704, $19,145, $1,087. Our regulated electric utilities offering monopoly service in most cases operate in a symbiotic manner with the customers and their service areas, with those users depending on us to provide first-class service and invest for their future needs. Permitting a construction period for generation major transmission facilities stretch way out, so it's an incumbent on us to be farsighted. We in turn look to our utilities regulators acting on behalf of our customers to allow us an appropriate return on the huge amounts of capital we must deploy to meet future needs. We shouldn't expect our regulators to live up to their end of bargain unless we live up to ours. David and Greg make sure we do just that. National research companies consistently rank our Iowa and Western utilities at or near the top of their industry. Similarly, among the 43 U.S. pipelines ranked by a firm named Mastio, our Kern River and Northern Natural properties tied for second place. Moreover, we continue to pour huge sums of money into our operations so as to not only prepare for the future, but also make these operations more environmentally friendly. Since we purchased Mid-American 10 years ago, it has never paid a dividend. We have instead used earnings to improve and expand our properties in each of the territories we serve. As one dramatic example, in the last 3 years, our Iowa and Western utilities have earned $2.5 billion within the same period, spending $3 billion in wind generation facilities. Mid-American has consistently kept in its end of the bargain with society, and society's credit has reciprocated. With few exceptions, our regulators have promptly allowed us to earn a fair returns over increasing sums of capital we must invest. Going forward, we will do whatever it takes to serve our territories in the manner they expect. We believe that in turn we'll be allowed to return we deserve in the funds we invest. And earlier, Charlie and I shunned capital-intensive businesses such as public utilities. Indeed, the best business by far for owners continues to be those that have higher returns on capital and that require little incremental investment to grow. We are fortunate to own a number of such businesses, and we would love to buy more. Anticipating, however, that Berkshire will generate ever-increasing amounts of cash, we are today quite willing to enter the business that regularly require large capital expenditures. We expect only that these businesses have reasonable expectations for earning decent returns on the incremental sums they invest. If our expectations are met, we believe that they will be Berkshire's ever-growing collection of good to great. Business should produce above average, so certainly not spectacular returns in decades ahead. Our BNSF operation, should be noted, has certain important economic characteristics that resemble those of electric utilities. In both cases, we provide fundamental service that will remain essential to the economic well-being of our customers, the communities we serve, and indeed the nation. Both will require heavy investment that greatly exceeds depreciation allowances for decades to come. Both must also plan far ahead to satisfy demand that expected outstrip the needs of the past. Finally, both require wise regulators who will provide certainty about a level of return so that we can confidently make the huge investment required to maintain, replace, and expand the plant. We see a social compact existing between the public and a railroad business, just as the case with our utilities. If either side shrinks, its obligations, both sides will inevitably suffer. Therefore, both parties to the compact should and will understand the benefit of behaving in a way that encourages good behavior. By the other, it's conceivable that our country will realize anything close to its full economic potential without its possessing the first-class electricity and railroad systems. We will do our part to see that they exist. In the future, BNSF result will be included in this regulated utility section. Aside from the two businesses having similar underlying economic characteristics, both are logical users of substantial amounts of debt that is not guaranteed by Berkshire. Both will retain most of their earnings. Both will earn and invest large sums in good times or bad. Those railroad will display the greater cyclicality. Overall, we expect this regulated sector to deliver significant increased earnings over time, albeit the cost of our investing many tens of billions of dollars in incremental equity capital. Manufacturing, service, and retailing operations. Our activities in this part of Berkshire cover the waterfront. Let's look, though, at the summary, balance sheet, and earnings statement for the entire group. Assets. Balance sheet 12/31/09. Assets, cash and equivalents 3,018. Accounts and notes receivable 5,066. Inventory 6,447. Other current assets 625. Total current assets 14,856. Goodwill and other intangibles 16,499. Fixed assets 15,374. Other assets 2,070. 48,799. Liabilities and equity. Notes payable 1,842. Other current liabilities 7,414. Total current liabilities 9,256. Deferred taxes 2,834. Term debt and other liabilities 6,240. Equity 30,469. 48,799. Earning statements in millions. Revenues 2009, 2008, 2007. Revenues 61,665, 66,099, 59,100. Operating expenses including depreciation 1,022 in 2009, 1,280 in 2008, and 955 in 2007. 59,509, 61,937, 55,026. Interest expense 98, 139, 127. Pre-tax earnings 2,058, 4,023, 3,947. Income tax and minority interest 945, 1,740, 1,594. Net income $1,113, $2,283, $2,343 does not include purchase accounting adjustments. Almost all of the many and widely diverse operations in the sector suffered to one degree or another from 2009 severe recession. The major exception was McLean, our distributor of groceries, confection, non-food items to the thousands of retail outlets, largest by far Walmart. Grady Rozier led McLean to record pre-tax earnings of $344 million, which even amounted to only slightly more than 1% dollar on its year sales of $31.2 billion. McLean employs a vast array of physical assets, practically all of which it owns, including 3,242 trailers, 2,309 tractors, and 55 distribution centers with 15.2 million square feet of space. McLean's prime asset, however, is Grady, who had a number of companies at which profits improved even as sales contracted. Always exceptional managerial achievement. Here are the CEOs who made it happen. Company CEO Benjamin Moore Paint, Dennis Abrams, Borzheim's Jewelry Retailing, Susan Jacks, H.H. Brown Manufacturing and Retailing of Shoes, Jim Eisler, CTB Agriculture Equipment, Vic Mancinelli, Dairy Queen, John Gaynor, Nebraska Furniture Mart, Furniture Retailing, John and Irv Pumpkin, Pampered Chef, Direct Sales of Kitchen Tools, Marley Gottschalk, Tees Manufacturing and Retailing of Candy, Brad Kinsler, Star Furniture, Furniture Retailing, Bill Kimbrell. Among the business we own that have a major exposure to the press industrial sector, both Marmin and Iscar turned into relatively strong performances. Frank Tex Marmin delivered a 13.5% pre-tax profit margin at record high, though the company's sales were down 27%. Frank Scott's conscious management mitigated the decline in earnings. Nothing stops Israel-based Iscar, not wars, recession, and competitors. The world's two other leading suppliers of small cutting tools both had very difficult years, each operating at a loss throughout much of the year. Though Iscar's results were down significantly from 2008, the company regularly reported profits even while it was integrating rationalizing Tungalloy, the large Japanese acquisition that we told you about last year when manufacturing rebounds as Carr will set new records. Incredible managerial team of Eitan Wertheimer, Jacob Harpaz, and Danny Goldman will see to that. Every business we own that is connected to residential commercial construction suffered severely in 2009. Combined pre-tax earnings of Johns Mansville, Acme Brick, and Metech were $227 million and an 82.5% decline from $1.295 billion in 2006. When construction activity was booming, these businesses continued to bump along the bottom, though their competitive positions remained undented. The major problem for Berkshire last year was NetJets, an aviation operation that offers fractional ownership of jets. Over the years, it has been enormously successful in establishing itself as a premier company in its industry, with the value of its fleet far exceeding that of its three major competitors combined. Overall, our dominance in the field remains unchallenged. NetJets' business operation, however, has been another story. In the 11 years that we have owned the company, it has recorded an aggregate pre-tax loss of $157 million. Moreover, the company's debt has soared from $102 million at the time of purchase to $1.9 billion in April of last year. Without Berkshire's guarantee of this debt, NetJets would have been out of business. It's clear that I failed you in letting NetJets descend into this condition, but luckily I have been bailed out. Dave Sokol, the enormously talented builder and operator of Mid-American Energy, became CEO of NetJets in August. His leadership has been transforming. Debt has already been reduced to $1.4 billion, and after suffering a staggering loss of $711 million in 2009, the company is now solidly profitable. Most important of the changes wrought by Dave have in any way undercut the top-of-that-line standards for safety and service that Rich Santulli, NetJets' previous CEO and the father of the fractional ownership industry, insisted upon. Dave and I have the strongest possible personal interest in maintaining these standards because we and our families use NetJets for almost all of our flying, as do many of our directors and managers. None of us are assigned special planes for crews. We receive exactly the same treatment as any other owner, meaning we pay the same price as everyone else does when we're using our personal contracts. In short, we eat our own cooking. In the aviation business, no other testimony means more. Finance and financial products. Our largest operation in the sector is Clayton Homes, the country's leading producer of modular manufactured homes. Clayton was not always number one. A decade ago, the three leading manufacturers were Fleetwood, Champion, and Oakwood, which together accounted for 44% of the output of the industry. All have since gone bankrupt. Total industry output, meanwhile, has fallen from 382,000 units in 1999 to 60,000 units in 2009. The industry is in shambles for two reasons, the first of which must be lived with the U.S. economies to recover. This reason concerns U.S. housing starts, including apartment units. In 2009, starts were 554,000, by the far lowest number in the 50 years for which we have data. Paradoxically, this is good news. People thought it was good news a few years back when housing starts, the supply side of the picture, earning about 2 million annually, but household formations, the demand side, only amounted to about 1.2 million. After a few years of such imbalances, the country surprisingly ended up with far too many houses. There were three ways to cure this overhang. One, blow up a lot of houses, a tactic similar to destruction of autos that occurred with the Cash of Clunkers program. Two, speed up household formation by, say, encouraging teenagers to cohabitate, a program not likely suffer from a lack of volunteers. Or three, reduce a new housing start to a number far below the rate of household formations. Our country has wisely selected the third option, which means that within a year or so, residential housing problems should largely be behind us, the exceptions being only high-value houses and those in certain localities. Where overall building was particularly rigorous, prices will remain far below bubble levels, of course, but for every seller and lender hurt by this, there will be a buyer who benefits indeed. Many families that can afford to buy an appropriate home a few years ago now find it well within their means because the bubble burst. The second reason that manufactured housing is troubled specific to the industry, the punitive differential mortgage rates between factory-built homes and site-built homes. Before you read further, let me underscore the obvious. Berkshire has a dog in this fight, and you should therefore assess the commentary that follows with special care. That warning made, however, let me explain whether differential cause problems for both large numbers of lower-income Americans and Clayton. The residential mortgage market is shaped by government rules that are expressed by FHA, Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae. Their lending standards are all powerful because the mortgages they insure can typically be securitized and turned into what in effect is an obligation of the U.S. government. Current buyers of conventional site-built homes who qualify for these guarantees can obtain a 30-year loan at about 5 to 1/4%. In addition to these mortgages have recently been purchased in massive amounts by the Federal Reserve in action, also help to keep rates at bargain basement levels. In contrast, very few factory-built homes qualify for agency-insured mortgages. Therefore, a meritorious buyer of a factory-built home must pay about 9% on his loan. For the all-cash buyer, Clayton Homes offers terrific value if the buyer needs mortgage financing, however, and of course most buyers do. The difference in financing cost too often negates the attractive price of a factory-built home. Last year, I told you why are buyers struggling people with low incomes for so while it's credit risk, their attitude is all important. They say enough to live in the home, not to sell or refinance it. Consequently, our buyers usually took out loans with payments geared to their verified incomes. We weren't making liars loans. I looked forward to the day they could burn their mortgage. If they lost their jobs, had health problems, or got divorced, we could of course expect defaults, but they seldom walked away, even simply because house values had fallen. Even today, though job loss troubles have grown, Clayton's delinquencies and defaults remain reasonable without significant problems. We have tried to qualify more of our customer loan for treatment similar to those available on the site built product. So far, we have had only token success. Many families with modest incomes but responsible habits have therefore had to forgo home ownership simply because the financing differential attached to the factory built product based monthly payments too expensive. If qualifications are broadened as to open low cost financing to all who meet down payment and income standards, the manufactured home industry seems destined to struggle and dwindle. Even under these conditions, I believe Clayton will operate profitably in coming years, though well below its potential. We couldn't have better manager than CEO Kevin Clayton, who treats Berkshire interests as if they were his own. Our product is first class and expensive and constantly being improved. Moreover, we'll continue to use Berkshire's credit to support Clayton's mortgage program, convince us we are of its soundness. Even so, Berkshire can borrow at a rate approaching that available to government agencies. This handicap will limit sales, hurting both Clayton and a multitude of worthy families who long for a low-cost home. In the following table, Clayton's earnings are net of the company's payments to Berkshire for the use of its credit. Offsetting this cost to Clayton, an identical amount of income credited to Berkshire Finance Operation include in other income. The cost of income amount was $116 million in 2009, $92 million in 2008. The table also illustrates how severely our furniture, CORT, and Trailer Extra leasing operations have been hit by the recession, though the recommended precision remain as strong as ever. We have yet to see any bounce in these businesses. Pre-tax earnings in millions, 2009, 2008. Net investment income, $278, $330. Life annuity operation, $116.23. Leasing operations, $14.87. Manufactured housing finance, Clayton, $187.206. Other income, $186.141. Income for investment derivative gains or losses, $781, $787. Includes $116 million in 2009 and $92 million in 2008. Of fees that Berkshire charges Clayton for the use of Berkshire's credit. At the end of 2009, we became a 50% owner of Berkshire Commercial Mortgage, formerly known as Capmark, the country's third largest servicer of commercial mortgages. In addition to servicing a $235 billion portfolio, the company is an important originator of mortgages, having 25 offices spread around the country. Though commercial real estate will face major problems in the next few years, long-term opportunities for Berkshire are significant. Our partner in this operation is Lucadia, run by Joe Steinberg and Ian Cumming, with whom we had terrific experience some years back when Berkshire joined with them to purchase Finova, a troubled finance business. In resolving that situation, Joe and Ian did far more than their share of the work, an arrangement I always encouraged naturally. I was delighted when they called me partner again in the Capmark purchase. Our first venture was also Chrysler Berkshire, so let's call this one of son of Berkshire. Someday I'll be writing you about grandson of Berkshire. Investments, below we show a common stock investment that year-end had a market value of more than $1 billion. 151,610,700, 225,000,000, 200,000,000, 37,711,330, 28,530,467, 130,272,500, 3,947,554, 83,128,411, 25,188,967, 234,247,373, 76,633,426, 39,037,142, 334,235,585. Company, American Express Company, BYD Company Limited, The Coca-Cola Company, Conoco Phillips, Johnson & Johnson, Kraft Foods Incorporated, POSCO, The Procter & Gamble Company, Sanoli Aventis, Tesco PLC, U.S. Bancorp, Walmart Stores Incorporated, Wells Fargo & Company. Others, total common stock carried market. 12/31/09, percentage of company owned, 12.7, 9.9, 8.6, 2.5, 1.0, 8.8, 5.2, 2.9, 1.9, 3.0, 4.0, 1.0, 6.5. Cost in millions, $1,287, $232, $1,299, $2,741, $1,724, $4,330, $768, $533, $2,027, 1,367, 2,371, 1,894, 7,394, 6,680, $34,646. Market, $6,143, 1,986, 11,400, 1,926, 1,838, 3,541, 2,092, 5,040, 1,979, 1,620, 1,727, 2,087, 9,021, 8,636, 59,034. There's our actual purchase price and also our tax basis. GWP cost differs in a few causes because of write-ups or downs or write-downs that have been required. In addition, we own positions in non-traded securities of Dow Chemical, General Electric, Goldman Sachs, Swiss Re, and Wrigley with an aggregate cost of $21.1 billion and a carrying value of $26.0 billion. We purchased these 5 positions in the last 18 months. Setting aside the significant equity potential they provide us, these holdings deliver us an aggregate of $2.1 billion annually in dividends and interest. Finally, we owned 76,770,029 shares, 20.5% of VNSF at year-end, which we then carried at 85.78 per share, but which have subsequently been melded into our purchase of the entire company. In 2009, our largest sales were in Conoco, Phillips, Moody's, Procter, Gamble, and Johnson & Johnson, sales of the latter occurring after we had built our position earlier in the year. Charlie and I believe that all of these stocks will likely trade higher in the future. We made some salary sales early in 2009 to raise cash for you. Our Dow and Swiss Re purchases in late in the year made other sales in anticipation for BNSF purchase. We told you last year that very unusual conditions had existed in the corporate and municipal bonds and that these securities were ridiculously cheap relative to U.S. Treasuries. We backed this view with some purchases, but it have done far more. Big opportunities come in frequently when it's raining gold. Reach for a bucket, not a thimble. We entered 2008 with $44.3 billion of cash equivalents, and we have since retained operating earnings of $17 billion. Nevertheless, at year-end 2009, our cash was down to $30.6 billion with $8 billion earmarked for the BNSF acquisition. We've put a lot of money to work. During the chaos of the last 2 years, it's been an ideal period for investors. A climate fear is their best friend, those who invest only when commentators are upbeat end up paying a heavy price for meaningless reinsurance. In the end, what counts as investing is what you pay for a business through the purchase of a small piece of it in the stock market and what the business earns in a succeeding decade or two. Last year, I wrote extensively about our derivatives contracts, which were then subject of both controversy and misunderstanding. For that discussion, please go to www.berkshirehathaway.com. We have since changed only a few of our positions. Some credit contracts have run off. The terms of about 10% of our equity put contracts have also changed. Maturities have been shortened and strike prices materially reduced. In these modifications, no money changed hands. A few points from last year's discussion are worth repeating. Though it's no sure thing, I expect our contracts in aggregate to deliver us a profit over their lifetime. Even when an investment income in a huge amount of float, they provide us excluded in the calculation. Our derivative float, which is not included in $62 billion of insurance float I described earlier, was about $6.3 billion at year end. Only a handful of our contracts require us to post collateral under any circumstance. Last year's low point in the stock and credit markets, our posting requirements was $1.7 billion, a small fraction of the derivatives related float we held. When we don't post collateral, let me add, the securities we put up continue to earn money for our account. Finally, you should expect large swings in the carrying value of these contracts items that can affect our reported quarterly earnings in a huge way, but that do not affect our cash or investment holdings. That thought certainly fit 2009 circumstances. Here are the pre-tax quarterly gains and losses from derivatives valuations that were part of our reported earnings last year. Quarter gains lost in billions: 1,517, 22.3, 357, 31.732, 41.52. As we explain, these wild swings neither cheer nor bother Charlie and me. When we report to you, we will continue to separate out these figures as we do realize investment gains and losses so that you can more clearly view the earnings of our operating businesses. We're delighted we hold the derivatives contracts that we do. To date, we have significantly profited from the float they provide. We expect also to earn further investment income over the life of our contracts. We have long invested in derivatives contracts that Charlie and I think are mispriced, just as we try to invest in mispriced stocks. In bonds, indeed, we first reported to you that we held such contracts in early 1998. The dangerous derivatives pose for the rest of participants in society, the nature of which we've long warned, and that can be dynamite arise when these contracts lead to average, and our counterparty risk that is extreme. At Berkshire, nothing is like that has occurred, nor will it. It's my job to keep Berkshire far away from such problems. Charlie and I believe that CEO must not delegate risk control. It's simply too important. Berkshire and I don't both initiate and monitor every derivatives contracts on our books, with the exception of operations related to contracts at a few of our subsidiaries, such as Mid-American and the minor runoff contracts at General Ray. If Berkshire ever gets in trouble, it will be my fault. It will not be because of misjudgment made by a risk committee or chief risk officer. In my view, board of directors of a huge financial institution is derelict if it does not insist that its CEO bear full responsibility for risk control. If he's incapable of handling that job, he should look for other employment, and if he feels that it with the government tribune required to step in with funds of guarantees, the financial consequence for him and his board should be severe. It has not been shareholders whom have botched the operation of some of our country's largest financial institutions, yet they have borne the burden with 90% or more of their holdings wiped out in most cases of failure. Collectively, they have lost more than $500 billion in just four largest financial fiascos of the last 2 years. To say these owners have been bailed out is to make the mockery of them. The CEOs and directors of the failed companies, however, have largely gone unscathed. Their fortunes may have been diminished by the disasters they oversaw with the Sullivan Crane style. It is behavior of the CEO and directors that needs to be changed. If their institution and country are harmed by their recklessness, they should pay a heavy price. One not reimbursable by the companies they've damaged nor by insurance. CEOs, in many cases, directors have long benefited from oversized financial carrots. Some meaningful sticks now need part of their employment picture as well. An inconvenient truth: boardroom overheating. Our subsidiaries made a few small bolt-on acquisitions last year for cash, but our blockbuster deal with BNSF required us to issue about 95,000 Berkshire shares amounted to 6.1% of those previously outstanding. Charlie and I issuing Berkshire stock about as much as we relish, preparing for a colonoscopy. The reason for this taste is simple. If we were to dream of selling Berkshire entirely at the current market price, why in the world should we sell a significant part of the company at the same inalienable price by issuing our stock in a merger? In evaluating a stock for stock offer, shareholders of the target company quite understandably focus on the market price of the acquired shares that are given to them, but they also expect the transaction to leverage them the intrinsic value of their own shares, the ones they are giving up. If shares prospectively acquired or selling below their intrinsic value, it's impossible for that buyer to make a sensible deal in an all-stock change. You simply can't exchange an undervalued stock for a fully valued one without hurting your shareholders. Imagine if you will Company A and Company B of equal size and both with business intrinsically worth $100 per share. Both of their stocks, however, sell for $80 per share. The CEO of a long confidence and short and smart offers 1 to 1/4 shares of A for each share of B, correctly telling his directors that B is worth $100 per share. He will neglect to explain, though, that when he is giving will cost the shareholders $125 in intrinsic value. The directors are mathematically challenged as well, and the deal is therefore completed. The shareholders of B will end up owning 55.6% of A and B's combined assets, and A's shareholders will own 44.4%. Not everyone at A, it should be noted, is a loser from this nonsensical transaction. Its CEO now runs a company twice as large as the digital domain in the world, where size tends to correlate with Bush prestige and compensation. If an acquirer's stock is overvalued, it's a different story. Using it as a currency works to the acquirer's advantage, as with the bubbles in various areas of the stock market have invariably led to serial issuances of stocks by slight promoters. Going by the market value of their stock, they can afford to overpay because they are in effect using counterfeit money. Periodically, many air for assets acquisitions have taken place. The late 1960s having been in particular obscene periods for such chicanery. Indeed, certain large companies were built in this way. No one involved, of course, ever publicly acknowledges the reality of what is going on. There is, though, plenty of private snickering. In our BNSF acquisition, the selling shareholders quite properly evaluated their offer, $100 per share. The cost was, however, somewhat higher, since 40% of the $100 was delivered in our shares, which Charlie and I believe to be worth more than their market value. Fortunately, we had long owned a substantial amount of BNSF stock that we purchased in the market for cash. All told, therefore, only 30% of our cost overall was paid to Berkshire shares. In the end, Charlie and I decided that the disadvantage of paying 30% of the price through stock was offset by the opportunity that acquisition gave us to deploy $22 billion of it in cash in a business we understood and liked for a long term. It has the additional virtue of being run by Matt Rose, whom we trust and admire. We also like the prospect of investing additional billions over 2 years at reasonable rates of return. But the final decision was close of one. If we had needed to use more stock to make the acquisition, it would in fact have made no sense. We would have been giving up more than we were getting. I have been in dozens of board meetings in there which have been deliberately, often with the directors being instructed by high-priced investment bankers. Are there any other kind? Invariably, the bankers give the board a detailed assessment of the value of the company being purchased, with the emphasis on why it's worth far more than its market price. In more than 50 years of board membership, however, never have I heard the investment bankers or management discuss the true value of what is being given. When the deal involved the issuance of the acquired stock, they simply used market to value to measure the cost. They did this even though they would have argued that the acquired stock price was woefully inadequate. Absolutely no indication of its real value had a takeover bid for the acquirer, instead been the subject up for discussion. When stock is a currency being contemplated in acquisition and when directors are hearing from an advisor, it reads to me that there is only one way to get a rational and balanced discussion. Directors should hire a second advisor to make the case against the proposed acquisition, with its fee contingent on the deal not going through. Absent this drastic remedy or recommendation in respect to the use of advisors remains, don't ask a barber whether you need a haircut. I can resist telling you a true story from long ago. We owned a stock in a large, well-run bank that for decades had been statutorily prevented from acquisitions. Eventually, the law was changed, and our bank immediately began looking for possible purchases. Its managers, fine people and able bankers, not unexpectedly began to behave like teenage boys who had just discovered girls. They soon focused on a much smaller bank, also well-run, and having similar financial characteristics in such areas as return on equity, interest margin, loan quality, etc. Our bank sold at a modest price. That's why we had bought into it, hovering near book value and possessing a very low price-earnings ratio. Alongside, though, the small bank's owner was being wooed by other large banks in the state and was holding out for a price close to 3 times book value. Moreover, he wanted stock, not cash. Naturally, our fellows caved in and agreed to their value destroying deal. We need to show that we are in the hunt. Besides, it's only a small deal. They said it's the only major harm to shareholders would have been a legitimate reason for holding back. Charlie's reaction at that time: are we supposed to applaud because the dog that follows their lawn is a Chihuahua rather than a St. Bernard? The seller of the smaller bank, no fool, then delivered one final demand in his negotiation after the merger. He in effect said, perhaps using words that were phrased more diplomatically than these: I'm going to be a large shareholder of your bank. I'll represent a huge portion of my net worth. You have to promise me, therefore, that you'll never again do a deal this dumb. Yes, the merger went through. The owner of the small bank became richer. We became poor, and the manager of the big bank, Yuli Bigger, lived happily ever after. The annual meeting. Our best guess is that 35,000 people attended the annual meeting last year, up from 12, no zeros omitted, in 1981, which our shareholder population which expanded. We expect even more this year, therefore we will have to make a few changes in the usual routine. There will be no change, however, in our enthusiasm for having you attend. Charlie and I like to meet you, answer your questions, and best of all, have you buy lots of good business from our business. The meeting this year will be held on Saturday, May 1st. As always, the doors will open in the Key West Center at 7 a.m. and the new Berkshire movie will be shown at 8:30 and 9:30. We will go directly to the question and answer period, which, with the break for lunch at the Key Westians, will last until 3:30. After a short recess, Charlie and I will convene the annual meeting at 3:45. If you decide to leave during today's question periods, please do so while Charlie's talking. Act fast, he can be terse. The best reason to exit, of course, is to shop. We will help you do that by filling the 184,300 square foot hall that adjoins the meeting area with products from dozens of Berkshire subsidiaries. Last year, you did your part. In most locations, racked up record sales, but you can do better. Friendly warning, if I find sales are lagging, I get testy and lock the exits. Geico will have booths staffed by a number of its top counselors from around the country, all of them ready to supply you with auto insurance quotes. In most cases, Geico will be able to give your shareholders discount, usually 8%. The special offer is permitted by 44 of the 51 jurisdictions in which we operate. One supplemental point, the discount is not additive if you qualify for another, such as that given certain groups. Bring the details of your existing insurance and check out whether we can save you money for at least 50% of you. We believe we can. Be sure to visit the bookworm among the more than 30 books and DVDs it will offer. 2 new books by my sons, Howard Fragile, a volume filled with photos and commentary about lives who struggled around the globe, and Peter's Life is What You Make It. Completing the family trilogy will be the debut of my sister Doris' biography and story focused on her remarkable philanthropic activities. Also available will be Poor Charlie's Almanac, the story of my partner. This book is something of a publishing miracle, never advertised yet. Year after year, selling many thousands of copies from the internet site. Should you need to ship your book purchases, a nearby shipping service will be available. If you're a big spender, or for that matter, merely a gawker, visit Elliott Aviation on the east side of the Omaha Airport between noon and 5 p.m. on Saturday. There will have a fleet of NetJets aircraft that will get your pulse racing. An attachment to the proxy materials that is enclosed with this report explains how you can obtain the credential you will need for admission to the meeting and other events. As for plane, hotel, and car reservation, we have again signed up for American Express, 800-799-6634 to give you special help. Carol Pedersen, who handles these matters, does a terrific job for each year, and I thank her for it. Hotel dreams can be hard to find, but work with Carol and you will get one. At Nebraska Furniture Mart, located on a 77-acre site on 72nd Street between Dodge and Pacific, will again be having Berkshire Weekend discount pricing. To obtain the Berkshire discount, you must make your purchase between Thursday, April 29th and Monday, May 3rd, inclusive and also present your meeting credential. The period special pricing will even apply to products of several prestigious manufacturers that normally have ironclad rules against discounting, but which in the spirit of our shareholder weekend have made an exception for you. We appreciate your cooperation. NFM is open from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Mondays through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Sunday. On Saturday this year from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. NFM is having a Berkeyville barbecue to which we are all invited. At the board time, we will again have 2 shareholders only events. The first will be a cocktail reception from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. On Friday, April 30th, second main gala will be held in San Andre, May 2nd from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. On Saturday, will be open until 6 p.m. We will have huge crowds at Birdham's throughout the weekend for your convenience. Therefore, shareholder prices will be available from Monday, April 26th through Saturday, May 8th. During that period, please identify yourself as a shareholder by presenting your meeting credential or brokerage statement that shows you are a Berkshire holder. Enter with the rhinestones, leave with diamonds. My daughter tells me that the more you buy, the more you save. Kids say that darndest things. On Sunday, in the mall outside of Birdham's, a blindfolded Practical Wolf twice U.S. champion will take on all comers who will have their eyes wide open. In groups of 6, nearby Norman Beck, a remarkable magician from Dallas, will bewilder onlookers. Our special treat for shareholders this year will be the return of my friend Errol Singh, the country's top-ranked junior table tennis player and a good bet to win the Olympics someday. Now 14, Errol came to the annual meeting 4 years ago and demolished all comers, including me. You can witness my humiliating defeat on YouTube. Just type in Errol Singh Berkshire. Naturally, I've been plotting a comeback and will take her on outside of Bursam's at 1 p.m. on Sunday. It will be a 3-point match, and after I soften her up, all shareholders invited to try their luck at similar 3-point contests. Winner will be given a box of Seas candy. Will have equipment available, but bring your own paddle. If you think it will help, it won't. Gornets will be open exclusively for Berkshire shareholders on Sunday, May 2nd, and will be serving from 1 p.m. until 10 p.m. Last year, so though it was overwhelmed by demand, with many more diners expected this year, I've asked my friend Donna Sheehan at Piccolo's, another favorite restaurant of mine, to serve shareholders on Sundays as well. Piccolo's giant root beer float is mandatory for any fan of fine dining. I plan to eat both restaurants. All of the weekend action makes me really hungry and have favorite dishes to each spot. Remember to make a reservation at Goritz. Call 402-551-3733 on April 1st, but not before. And at Piccolo's, call 402-342-9038. Regrettably, we will not be able to have a reception for our international visitors this year. Our count grew to about 800 last year, and by simply signing one item per person took about 2.5 hours. Since we expect even more international visitors, this year Charlie and I decided we must drop this function, but be assured we welcome every international visitors who come. Last year we changed our method of determining what questions would be asked at the meeting and received many dozens of letters applauding the new arrangement. We'll therefore again have the same 3 financial journalists lead the question and answer period. As if Charlie made the questions, the shareholders have been submitted to them by email. The journalists and their email address are Carlos Loomis of Fortune, may be emailed at cloomis@fortuneemail.com, Becky Quick of CNBC at berkshirequestions.cnbc.com, and Andrew Ross Sorkin of the New York Times at arsorkin at nytimes.com. For the question submitted, each journalist will choose the dozen if so he or she decides are the most interesting and important. The journalists have told me your question has the best chance of being selected if you keep it concise and include no more than 2 questions in any email you send them. In your email, let the journalists know that if you like your name mentioned if your question is selected. Neither Charlie nor I will get so much as a clue about the questions to be asked. We know the journalists will pick some tough ones, and that's the way we like it. We'll again have a drawing at 8:15 on those Saturday at each of 13 microphones for those shareholders wishing to ask questions themselves. At the meeting, I will alternate the questions asked by the journalists with those from the winning shareholders. We add 30 minutes to the question time, and we'll probably have time for about 30 questions from each group. At 86 and 79, Charlie and I remain lucky beyond our dreams. We're born in America, had terrific parents who saw that we got good educations, have enjoyed wonderful families and great health, and came equipped with a business gene that allows us to prosper in a manner hugely disproportionate experienced by many people who contribute as much as more to our society's well-being. Moreover, we have long had jobs that we love, in which we are helped in countless ways by talented, cheerful associates. Indeed, over the years, our work has become ever more fascinating. No wonder we tap dance work. If pushed, we would gladly pay substantial sums to have our jobs, but don't tell the comp committee. Nothing, however, is more fun for us than getting together with our shareholders partner at Berkshire's annual meeting. So join us on May 1st at Key West for our annual Woodstock for Capitalists. We'll see you there. February 26, 2010, Warren E. Buffett, Chairman of the Board. P.S. Come by rail.